listening to Oilersnation Radio, a member of the Nation network of podcasts and delivered by DoorDash. 1 hour of straight hockey talk with Dan, Rick, Tyler, and Bag Milk starts now.
I don't like that you waited so long to turn my microphone on.
Is that like a depth finder on the screen there, Tyler?
A depth finder?
Yeah, like are you looking
going
for
fishing?
fish? Like the Oilers were yesterday?
What is that bottom part? The orange.
That's new. It's like solar flare.
So that's something that's like a part of Adobe that I used to use when you'd have to cut commercials out of radio, because the commercials come in a different frequency than your voice. So it'd be very easy. Like if I played like an MP3 recording or something right now, it would like drop off and have a lot of black.
So if I cold and unfeeling like most ads are.
Pretty much. So yeah, that's what you guys are seeing there. Thanks for looking at that.
All of our listeners are loving this segment.
Whoa. Oh, look at that. Oh, that is nice.
That's really better.
There's
That's
definitely
really nice.
fish at the bottom there.
Absolutely.
Fish all over. Look at all those yellow hits.
I like this.
All right.
All right. Oilers Nation Radio episode 181. Welcome into our world. We like to look at Tyler's screen sometimes. I'm Bag Milk, Dan, Rick, Tyler, scooting. As we do every week.
He's got to go back now.
Oh, yeah. He's got to get.
Turn
What
off
did
that
you
mic.
turn down?
That mic.
I see.
One.
All right.
Don't need it.
Tyler, every week we start this podcast with a delicious debate for our friends at Oodle Noodle. New locations popping up all over the place. They had Kingsway, Aaron Ridge, Airdrie. One's coming up in Fort Sask. What do we got for delicious debate today?
The Oodle Noodle delicious debate today.
Delicious.
What should the Oilers do to fix their goaltending problem? That is your delicious debate.
First move for me, no question, Stuart has to come back up. We need Stu. I don't understand why the best goalie in terms of stats, black and white, objectively, is not on the roster. I don't get it. That's my first move. You need to get a trade done. I don't know how it works. I'm not smart enough. I'll text Frank later, the dog. But we'll try and figure it out. But I think you have to at least pull Skinner up, don't you?
Your GM's doubling down on a gamble he made at the beginning of the season.
A bad one.
I agree with you.
It's like he's trying to live bet his way out of a hole.
He's hoping for the best.
Trust me, that never works.
Instead of trying to fix it right now and making an upgrade, which he should have been looking at all year, he's hoping and he's praying that the combo he brought in is going to find what they were doing last year. And I have no faith in that anymore. Stu needs to be here, but that's not the only move. I don't know if I'm too jacked up about going Stu and Smyth or Stu and Koskinen. I'm not jacked up about going all three with them. Both of them have to go. It's got to be Stu and somebody new. And I don't know where you go from there.
Tyler?
Yeah, I think there's going to be names out there, but I don't think right now you're getting that slam dunk solution. Like I think if you wanted to pay the price, you could go get Martin Jones from Philly. If you wanted to go pay the price, you could go get Anton Forsberg out of Ottawa. But neither of those guys are probably going to be the ones who come in and take you on any sort of meaningful playoff run. I think if you're going to get that guy, it's going to come closer to the deadline with, maybe Fleury goes somewhere and another goalie shakes loose that way. Maybe Dallas decides to sell off Braden Holtby because they know they're going to lose him for nothing in the offseason and they have Jake Ottinger. Maybe a more impactful name slips through the cracks and becomes available to Ken Holland closer to the deadline. But I just think right now, you can't just go make a bad trade. There is that easy in-house solution, and it's bringing in Stuart Skinner. It doesn't cost you anything. Hell, you could run 3 goalies for a little if you wanted to. Send Sevier back down.
Who's coming in for the shootout?
Oh, fuck. Remember that, eh?
Mike Morrison.
Yeah, Mike Morrison's got to be.
Matthew Guerin.
Oh, yeah.
But I just don't know why Skinner's not here. I agree with you 100%.
Because he's also playing well in Bakersfield right now. It's like he's almost outgrowing that league in a way.
He stopped 40 pucks the other day?
Yeah. Dan?
Well, I think you guys have beat the dead horse to a pulp. And so for me,
R.I.P.
there's another element to this that it just continues to nag at me. And it's the fact that Dallas Eakins, Todd Nelson, Todd McClellan, Ken Hitchcock, and Dave Tippett all lost their job while we still have the same goalie coach in place. And for me, even though it doesn't necessarily fix the problem right now, I think optically as an organization, you have to get another voice in there. You have to get somebody else to present a new outlook. I'm not saying that again, that it doesn't fix the problem at this second, but I think as an organization, we have to recognize that there has been some issues with these goalies that continue to show up, and then goalies that we've let go are having success where they head to.
But how many goalies have we let go that are really having like
Cam Talbot and Devin Dubnyk have both been all-stars after they left.
Actually, Anthony Stolars is suddenly an NHL quality goalie too, but he was here for like a minute.
LB has been in the league the whole time.
And I'm not arguing that any of those goalies were necessarily better, but again, I just think you have to try and change some things up. And when it's broke, you try and fix it. And so the goaltending has always been an issue and has been an issue with all of those head coaches. So why not try and make?
See, I think those guys, the issue with those guys, or in front of those guys, more was the defense. I guess I understand the swapping the coach just because you're going to do the majority of the coaching staff anyway. So why would he stick around longer? I don't know if I'm putting this on the goalie coach. I really don't understand the goalies or what they do. So I kind of had to listen or read into what goalies have said, what their coaches do, and I think it was Joaquin Gage or something like that. I said, you know what? They're really just there to like kind of talk a little bit. So they're not really there to teach. This isn't like goalie school or something like that. He's there to like bounce things off of once in a while, and that's about it. So I don't know if I'm not going to sit here and put it on the goalie or the goalie coach, but I can see why at this point you just kind of move on from him.
I find Tyler very distracting. I like watching you tinker and fiddle.
I know
You get up, you move
so quiet in our ears now.
Yeah, it's very quiet. What happened?
Very quiet.
Tyler,
well, because our levels were too high.
Those three gray ones are down a little bit. That's why.
Yeah.
Should I start playing with the faders too?
No, please don't. You could turn up everyone's headphones a little.
I like it.
He gets he's walking away.
Everybody's headphones a little too. It's like turn up everybody's headphones.
Tyler does not want me to touch anything on this board, and all I want to do is touch everything on this board.
It's understandable.
Yeah, it seems fun. And he just switched a page. I wonder what this one.
I don't know if people like this or not. I changed the light because I thought I looked very pale in the video recording.
It's fucking February, man. You are pale.
I know I'm pale, but I look like translucent.
You were just down south too.
Yeah, I know. I did not
get some bronzing lotion in here or something for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tyler, you look.
I look super pale. Like we can't post this anywhere.
If you were any whiter, you'd be clear.
Are you
Just
sick?
turn the light off.
Yeah.
Are you going to start retching again for us?
Oh, now you're gonna.
That might be better.
This might be better, actually.
Oh,
yeah, it's you got a little more human
there
to you
go.
now. This is such we're making such good audio here.
But like, I don't understand why Rick and Dan don't look translucent, and only humans. Tyler does.
We're not vampires.
It's like that episode of The Simpsons when Bart sold his soul.
Yeah. Couldn't open the door
much
anymore.
Did you sell yours for, Tyler?
This is man, I'm not coming across well
Stop
on camera.
I think what happened is, Tyler, if I face this way, I also look translucent now, right?
Oh, so you got to face head on.
Yeah.
That's a little bit better, yeah.
Look away. Look away from the light.
We need some blinds over there.
Yeah.
We do actually. That is something we're looking at.
Well, I also get distracted by there was a dog that was walking outside, so I get distracted by that too. But we'll get there.
The dog?
Back to the goaltending. Tyler, you put out a video from Mike McKenna at Daily Faceoff the other day. You wrote a little article about it. Mike McKenna had some analysis on Mike Smyth. Specifically, the thing that I think is bothering everybody, first of all, the Oilers haven't really had good goaltending all year, or at least consistent goaltending.
Yeah.
The game against Tampa on Wednesday, that should have been a win.
Oh, yeah.
But instead, we're talking about a loss because they couldn't get the saves they needed. On a night when Vasilevsky was only a 900 save percentage, which for him is ground level.
Yeah.
The Oilers were a .082 less than that. It's no bueno. You can't win like that. You can't play your heart out, come back, and then give up soft goals to a team like that. The Oilers held Tampa to 22 shots on net, and they gave up 5 goals. I know one of those was a empty netter.
This team can play, man.
They can play, but they need somebody to stop pucks.
Yes.
So back to what I was saying on the second goal to Stamkos, Mike Smyth was still down in a crouching position that they usually, what is the acronym for
RVH?
that? Yeah, everybody Google RVH.
Reverse vertical horizontal.
Something like that.
What?
No, I think actually you're right.
Yeah, I think I'm right. It's when like one pad is vertical, one pad's horizontal. And usually that's like it's like a post integration play, something you do when the puck's down low, you reverse that from like whatever you normally
It's like
are.
what they do to defend wraparounds a lot.
Yeah.
But this was out in the circle.
Get down there and like right on the camera.
On camera, show you what RVH is.
Yeah, we can use the door as the net.
Yeah.
I think that Mike McKenna made a really good point that it's just, and I'm paraphrasing, he didn't say it this way, but it's lazy play from Mike Smyth.
Mm-hmm.
And it cost them a goal. And that happened immediately, just over a minute and a half after Connor tied the game with a beautiful power play goal.
He was on fire that game.
Yep.
It's just you wasted a great performance from the team in front. You wasted a great performance from Mike Smith, all because you couldn't get a stop.
This has nothing to do with anything, but Kennedy, our graphic designer, I asked her to make a bunch of Photoshops of Jay Woodcroft in his pose as a hero around the city, and she just sent me a bunch of them. And it is the absolute best thing I've ever seen. Anyway, back to goaltending.
I was gonna say, can you put that in the group or pass that down?
Absolutely, I will. But can you win with these guys?
I mean,
yes, but not enough.
Yeah, like Dustin Nielsen actually, I think, had a great point on Twitter during the game. And he said, you know, like Mike Smith is capable of playing good games. Mikko Koskinen is capable of playing good games. The issue is that you just don't know when you're going to get those good games. It's too inconsistent. That's the big problem. This team needs someone who can even just consistently be in that 9-10, 9-15 range. The Oilers don't need a 9-20 or a 9-25 goalie to be to compete.
Average.
Imagine where we'd be with that.
Oh, I mean, fuck, we'd be top of the conference or close to it if you had that, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's brutal.
Look at what Calgary's doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of it
losing 7-1.
Yeah, they got absolutely pumped last night, which again, we're going to get to sports betting here a little bit later. Tyler told me I should bet on the Flames last night, and I'm glad I didn't. My gut told me to bet on the Canucks, but I did not do that either because fuck both those teams. Anyway, back to the goaltending. Tyler, continue.
I don't get it. I don't understand why Skinner's not here. At least he could probably give you that 9-10 or better save percentage. Smith and Koskinen cannot consistently do that. And we've seen now in 2 playoff series that they're not capable of stealing you a series either. I don't understand what we're waiting for anymore.
We were told this whole year, like, this team is not Stanley Cup challengers. They're, wait till you see what you need to see out of them before you go fix that goaltending. I saw what I needed to see out of them against Tampa Bay.
Yes.
They can go and they can play 7 games against any team in this league and have a decent opportunity of trying to beat them.
Woodcroft has the boys hopping.
Dude, I love the way they're going. They need that goal. They proved themselves to Holland the other night.
Yes.
And we know he's not going to do anything on this road trip. And if we went 3-1 the rest of the way, he probably doesn't do anything.
Yep.
Like, are we running into a similar situation where Tippett had to lose those 2 games in order to get fired? If he won one of them, are things different?
That's the scary part.
It's terrifying, man. This team has come out and proven to Holland that they can get the job done. It's now his job to go get that goaltender. That's where we are. And if we don't get that goaltender, it's a first round exit.
To make matters worse, at least in my opinion, the U.S. broadcast, which network was that again?
TNT.
Had a clip where they were talking about Mike Smith coming to the bench and chirping the young defenseman for the way they covered a play on the Braden Point goal. My problem with that is stop some fucking pucks.
If Mike Smith had stopped 7 high danger chances in the first period and then finally got beat on a goal where a defenseman blew coverage, then I could see him going to the bench and being like, hey, what the hell are we doing here? Like, figure it out, you guys. But Mike Smith was terrible. Those goals were all on him. They were all stoppable. Every single one of them should not have gone in. So I don't understand also going after young defensemen. Like, you want to be a leader on this team, yet you're just going to continually scapegoat the young defensemen and blame them for your shitty style. Come on, man. That's weak.
Schmitty battles.
I wanted to hear it from myself. I wanted to understand exactly what was said, and just so whoever was telling us, didn't have some sort of, they didn't try and play it up a bit, but this is Keith Jones who said it, I believe, right? Yeah. So Keith Jones played in the 80s and the 90s. He was around some teams where I'm sure things were not exactly said in the most politically correct manner. So I'm assuming that he's got a bit of a higher threshold in terms of teammate to teammate accountability.
Sure.
And if he still says that he was kind of like ripping on him a bit, then I'm going to actually believe that he was ripping on him a bit.
It's just like, man, you're not playing nearly even in the ballpark of
even this year, even if he's having a bad game, but he has had a really good year, then I get it.
Mike Smith has allowed 2 goals in under 6 shots 7 times so far this year, if my math is right.
Now, how many of those are not grade A opportunities as well? Because I believe these last couple have not been. I believe since Woody got here, their grade A chances giving up have gone down.
I think so.
So now he's not. If you're giving up grade A goals,
that's anecdotal.
Maybe I can sort of get that. But if you're not, that's not what's getting past you, then we have a really big issue, and that's where we're at right now.
It feels like for the first 4 games, that with Woodcroft that it was that way, but I think in the last like two, the breakaways per 60 has been going up
against Minnesota
for sure,
against Winnipeg as well.
Yeah.
Where they had those two shorties before Adam Lowry eventually got one.
But to come back to your guys' point about Smyth too, it's like all we've been sold on with Mike Smyth, if not to have the ability to have the opportunity to play like he did last year, is his leadership skills. That's what everybody tells us.
Schmitty battles.
He is a proven leader entity in this locker room. And for me, flat out, if you're performing like Smyth is and you're having the issues like Smyth is, and then you're still turning around and yelling at your teammates, that's not leadership. And that's not worth it. That's not worth it to have it still on your team. And I so for me, it's just, it's like, at what point are you now looking at this guy and saying he's hurting the team more than he's helping it?
I can tell he's hurting the team.
His personality is probably the same either way he's playing well or bad. So to me, I don't mind if that's just who he is and he's always like that. But when he's been playing the way he has been this year and the way he has recently, I think you need to bite your tongue a little bit and kind of look in the mirror a little bit more there, and you have to kind of shut up, a la Torts.
Just for the sake of having this number, I looked up the Oilers' scoring chances against per 60. Under Dave Tippett, it was 27.95 scoring chances against per 60, according to Natural Stat Trick at 5-on-5. And since Woodcroft has taken over, it is, sorry, I clicked the wrong button. That's my bad. Kind of on brand.
It is as bad.
23.07. So they've dropped it by basically 4 per 60 is their scoring chances against.
I mean, that's pretty solid, right?
It's pretty good.
I think so.
Basically, they were like bottom of the barrel in the NHL or whatever, and now they're like middle of the road, I think, if I'm reading that right.
Woody's got them going.
Yeah, they're playing good hockey. And it's a deep hockey team up front. I like that.
Even with 11 forwards.
They're a deep group up front. I think the blue line maybe leaves you wanting a little bit more, and I think that's something they could address at the deadline. But do you think that they will, though? Yeah, it's kind of on brand, right? Like, Holland went out and got Kulikov last year when you could maybe argue they didn't even need it as much as they do right now. I think he'll go make a depth move for a defenseman, or if there's a bigger trade out there, maybe he looks at it. Like a goalie and a left defenseman, I think if you make the right moves here, it could be really, really impactful.
At this point, are we not looking at a rental type of goaltender now? In terms of like your most likely candidates are going to be like a Holtby, who is up at the end of the year, a Varlamov, who obviously has one more year left. As opposed to going for some of the younger guys, because the younger guys are on teams that are probably going to be in the playoffs, therefore not moving their backup goaltender right now.
I would argue that no matter what you do, it only really makes sense to go get a rental. Like, you have limited cap space this offseason. So what are you going to do if you go get a guy who's due $4 million next year? And, maybe Koskinen goes out, so it fixes stuff for this year. Well, all you're doing is taking away from the cap space you need to sign Puljujarvi and Yamamoto. You almost are forced to go get a rental, and you have Smyth and Skinner under contract for next year. So unless you think Mike Smyth is like not going to play next year, like is going to be like, yeah, I'm going on LTIR because I have a bad knee or some shit like that, then you can't really go get James Reimer. Then what are you going to do next year?
Does this mean like the most likely candidate at this point would therefore be Holtby?
I think
as the best UFA.
He's probably him or Anton Forsberg.
And you'd probably be more comfortable. At least this GM would be more comfortable with Holtby because of his age, his experience, and all that other stuff.
Although he signed Forsberg once.
True, but he had Schmitty here ahead of him.
I don't know. I think Holtby and Forsberg are the two that make the most sense.
Would you go into next year with Holtby and Smyth? Or sorry, Holtby and Stu?
I'd feel okay with Holtby and
Skinner at least to start this year, and then in the same situation as this year where you have to like watch it as the season goes on, and if there's an opportunity, you make the move, and if not, if they're playing well, you can just roll with what you have.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not like Holtby's 35 plus, right? He's like 30, 31 years old.
And his contract's what, like 5 right now?
$2 million.
$2 million.
So like for this year,
Right, Holtby's 32. So
we can get both these guys. Let's just say Holtby gets his exact same contract next year. We'll have like 2 goaltenders for $3 million.
Pretty much. That's why I like Holtby.
Kind of the way you have to go.
I know, like what we talked about on Real Life, and Jay wasn't a big fan of going out and getting Holtby, but like his save percentage is good.
You were pushing Forsberg yesterday pretty heavy on.
I think right now, if Forsberg could be had for like your 4th rounder in 2023, I think you do it.
What's Holtby going to cost? Can't be that much.
Depend. It really does depend, but like he might cost you your 2nd.
Well, I think about.
Do we even have a second, or that's
it'd have to be 2023.
Yeah.
I think about making a move like that for a goalie, and now would be the time to do it because you still have some wiggle room if it turns out to be a poor gamble on a guy like a Forsberg where it doesn't work out for you. You can still make another move after that.
Yeah, I think not very many opportunities to make a move after that with our assets at this point.
No, I suppose.
Whatever it has to be. And I think that's kind of why he's sitting on his hands because he's nervous. He knows this is a one shot at doing this, fixing his goaltending situation. And he's legit scared.
Well, and the reality is that no team in the NHL is being like, I'm here to help you, Edmonton Oilers.
No, but other GMs go out there and find ways to make deals.
Well, that's what bothers me too. Over at Daily Faceoff, Chris Gear wrote about how third-party teams like an Arizona Coyotes that got a lot of cap space are used to send some money to in these bigger transactions. When was the last time we ever saw the Oilers in a three-way trade like that? It just doesn't happen.
Lack of creativity.
Is that okay? So because I'm starting to sit there and look at Holland the same way as looking at Tippett, where Tippett was kind of rigid and wasn't bending with his with the new way of the NHL, and I kind of see if Holland does not go get his goaltender right now and be a little bit flexible to make something creative, or even make a simple move and go get a Holtby, then I'm really questioning him because I like I said, I'm probably the only one, but I'm okay with the players the way they are. That goaltending situation, what needs to get fixed.
Yeah. The forwards I'm happy with.
I'm fine doing the 11-7.
I am too. Like, I didn't think that I was going to like it as much as I do until I saw the way Jay Woodcroft does it.
I think my kind of thought that we're not going to make a goalie move is just because there is so many teams that are in this kind of a market with the Colorado Avalanche of the world and Schmitty battles. But
if we lose these next two, and they're the same as Tampa Bay where we were in there and it was a goaltender that kind of lose, and then I think you're in the exact same position as you were after the Chicago game where Holland's going to have to make a move.
Let's look at who's in the market for a goalie right now. We'll start in the Pacific. No one except Edmonton. Vegas is probably looking for, but again, I think it's either. That's
not as hard of a move as we are making.
Yeah. Like Vegas, we could throw them on the list. You go to the Central, no one there is really looking for a goalie. Yeah, okay, Colorado. But the thing with Colorado, you have to remember is if they get one, they can flip one here, right? Same thing with Washington. Washington's in the market. If they get one, they're flipping one, which means another goalie, it would be musical chairs at that point. The Oilers could get involved with that. And Pittsburgh's probably looking for a backup. I actually wonder about them and Anton Forsberg. That would make a ton of sense. So there's kind of four other teams other than Edmonton, and two of them would have a goalie to move if they went out and got a goalie. So
are we okay with either of those backup options?
Vanacek or Kemper or Francouz? Yeah. I'd be fine with any one of those three.
Yeah.
Before you send us tweets or Instagram messages, ON Radio podcast, the Ducks are not trading John Gibson.
Yeah.
So that's an annoying one too.
We talked about
that'd be so expensive. Like that's
crazy expensive.
We can't take anybody off our roster, off our game day roster. I don't think.
Yeah.
Where the Oilers have the most position of strength is left-hand defenseman prospects that, though I don't know what any of them are worth. And
Samorukov has to be pretty much the biggest name out there because you're going to eventually
floating Broberg.
Fair. It's going to be Broberg or Samorukov because you're going to, I don't see Nurse or Niemelainen getting moved.
Like going back to something we talked about weeks ago, let's say the Chychrun thing was Broberg plus, like you have to consider that because one is a maybe and one is an NHL defenseman.
Yeah, 100%. I think if it's for a guy like Chychrun, you do consider it. If it's anything else, I'd just rather move the first rounder than Broberg or Holloway or Bourgault. I think those three, Broberg, Holloway, and Bourgault need to be really, really close to untouchable. Just because you're going to be tight for money the next few years. You need those young guys coming up on ELCs. Outside of those three, any prospect should be on the table.
Would you not be a little bit more closed fist on Matvei Petrov as well?
Matvei Petrov is lighting it up.
Or even Raf Lavoie.
I'd move Lavoie.
See ya. I'd trade him.
It's just, you only, and the other thing to remember too is like, we got to think about this as the Oilers window is right now, right?
Yeah.
So let's look in the top six right now. McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins. I mean, top nine, sorry. You got those four, kind of your core four. Fogel's under contract as well. And Yamamoto and Puljujarvi are under team control. So you have seven pieces of your top nine, like
just the type of player he is, though. Just he's got that shot. He's that right-handed centerman. I don't know if he can win faceoffs yet or not, or if that's even going to be a thing for him. But that's obviously a big thing in the NHL if he can get one.
You have Carter Savoy, Raphael Lavoie, Tyler Tullio, Matvei Petrov. You can move one of those, and I would just move whichever one of them seems to have the most value.
Fair.
If it's Lavoie, it's Lavoie. Like you let him go if you're getting, like if Seattle is like, hey, we want your third next year and Lavoie for Carson Soucy, which I don't even think is close to what Soucy ends up going for. But I think like you do that. Yeah. At some point you need to look at it. And I mentioned those 7 guys who could factor into your top 9. You throw Holloway into that mix next year. McLeod could be in that mix. Like you could see how the Oilers top 9 is kind of set.
Yep.
So there's not really like a good skilled role for a guy like a Lavoie or like a whoever to slide into over the next 2 seasons.
Is there any trade value to Lavoie, Samorukov, and a first round pick? Like is that getting us in the conversation for a goaltender now? The
only point where they might get outbid in that situation is just because you're not floating an A-level prospect out there. Whereas like a team like the Rangers, if you're bidding against them, they're probably willing to move an A-level prospect this year. And other teams might be willing to move an impact piece. And I have a feeling organizations would probably sit there and be like, no, we're taking the A piece over 2 B pieces, right? The only team that might not is like Seattle, just because I think they might value like a bulk of prospects because they don't have an American League team and they got to fill out an American League roster next season, right? So maybe Seattle sits there and is like, hey, if you give us Samorukov and you give us Lavoie, maybe we give you Soucy and hey, we're getting our value back. We've got a couple guys who can play in the farm next year and be that in our pipeline because they don't have a pipeline right now.
Are you making that D trade before a goalie trade? I don't know if I am.
I'm making them whenever, no order. Who cares?
Because if you make that D trade first, you're kind of out of money for your goaltender. You're out of assets to make your goalie trade, are you not?
You got your first, you got your second next year.
Well, and that's where you'd hope that a GM could figure that stuff out. But
that's why you need to get creative.
At one point, if you spend your assets are gone, right?
Yeah, but I would certainly hope he has enough assets to make 2 trades. Like you should be able to go get a Soucy or a left-handed defenseman. The other deal that, it's been floated out by a few people now, Ristolainen for Barrie.
Straight up.
Would you do that
right now?
Straight up? Hell yeah.
In a second.
You don't even think twice about that. Like I don't love Ristolainen at all. I think he gets really overvalued because of his size and his age.
He's big.
Yeah, he's big, right? But Friedman wrote about how Ristolainen, for his own value, really wants to get into a playoff series because he thinks that's when he'll be the most valuable. He's played almost like 600 games, I think, in the NHL. Never played in a playoff series.
Thank you, Buffalo.
He was with Buffalo, yeah. And the big part of that deal as well is like you get a more shutdown type D-man for Barrie, and Barrie's off your books, right? That $4.5 million in the summer, that's huge.
That's big.
And all those block shots are no longer being blocked.
And on the Daily Faceoff show, we talked a little bit about some of these teams that aren't in the playoff hunt could be buyers. They could look at the market and be like, you know what? Yeah, we're going to sell off a little, but I think there's pressure in Philly to like turn it around quickly. And if Chuck Fletcher, like if they get off to a bad start next year, Chuck Fletcher's done. So I think Chuck Fletcher might sit there and go, yeah, I could get a 2nd round pick for Rasmus Ristolainen or a 3rd round pick for Rasmus Ristolainen, but he might be more inclined to get a warm body back for him.
And people know Tyson Barrie.
And that strikes me as a Philly move too. Like,
so good.
It's like when they went after like Mark Streit back in the day. And then there was another one too. Another young.
They signed Yandel this offseason. Yeah. Yandel's not good.
They loved Ghost Bear for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Friday afternoon. You don't need to cook. You don't want to cook. You've worked enough for this week. Our friends at DoorDash Ding Dong are here for you. And they're here ready to bring you oodle noodle wherever you are in the city. Check them out. Download the app. DoorDash. Shout out to you. Tyler, you've been working through some other trade rumor stuff on Oilersnation.com and our YouTube page. Go subscribe to the YouTube page, by the way. We are putting a lot more work on that one, and I'd love for you to check it out. What other rumors are you kind of seeing out there?
Okay. You know me. I like playing armchair GM, right?
I know you do.
Waz, don't clip this because I don't need people fucking yelling at me the way they yelled at me for when I threw out. I just gently threw it on Twitter. I was like, hey, who says no? Hagel for Puljujarvi. I was just curious.
But where did that come from? Like, where did that thought come from?
I was sitting there and I was like, I like Brendan Hagel. $1.5 million for 2 more years, cost controlled. Like that's an unreal deal for a guy who could probably score you 15, 20 goals next season. So I was just thinking like, I wonder if I'm the GM in Chicago, whoever ends up getting hired there. And I look at Edmonton, I have young Brandon Hagel.
Peter.
Oh, hopefully Shirelli, yeah. But if I'm the GM in Chicago, who would I want from Edmonton in that situation? And what popped in my head was like, if I'm the Chicago GM, I'd probably start by asking for Puljujarvi. And then I was like, does Edmonton do that? Would Chicago even do that? Because apparently Chicago's been offered a 1st rounder and a prospect for Hagel, and they're saying no.
Wow.
So that's why I threw that out there. And Oilers fans just did not react kindly.
Your response for the record was, I don't think I would do that. You didn't say no. You said, I don't think I would do that.
Because I don't think I would do it.
So not a definite no. I'm a definite no.
right now, as we're recording this, Friday, February 25th, 46 games played. Jesse Puljujarvi has 12 goals, 16 assists for 28 points. Brandon Hagel, 14 goals, 13 assists for 27 points in the same amount of games. So they're very, very close. In terms
What
of
about like their fancy stats though? Because I feel like Yessa does a lot of stuff away from that puck.
Yeah.
His forechecking is
and he's also a right
top notch.
You know, he's also a right winger.
Yeah.
Hagel's a lefty. And I think the Oilers are getting a little bit crowded on the left-hand side.
Yes.
Tyler?
Yeah, it is. But you also have the versatility up there, right? Like Hyman can play both wings. Fogel can play both wings. I think McLeod's even played both wings a little bit this year.
Yes, he's playing right wing with Kane and Leon.
So like you have the versatility there, and Kane might not be here long term, right? We can get into that later if we want, but he is a lefty, and that's not great. So that's probably ultimately why I wouldn't do it. Also, I value Yessi more. I think his defensive game doesn't get enough love amongst the fan base at times. So I wouldn't do it. But I think it's a lot close. Like I had 157 replies to the fucking tweet.
Yeah, you got roasted.
I got roasted, and people were like, "Who's Hagel? Oh, that's a terrible trade for Edmonton." And it's like, I don't
he
think
scored against us that night.
Yeah, he did.
I don't think it would be like a terrible trade. Like
I think
it'd be a fan favorite hurt.
He's a fan favorite. And if you separate that fact from it, I don't know, times being like, who's Brandon Hagel? That's a nobody. And it's like, well, you're clearly not watching enough hockey then. You're just an Oilers fan.
Yes.
So like, whatever.
But it's like, like who since Ryan Smyth has a fan base enveloped more
Ryan
in
Nugent
this
Hopkins.
city?
Brandon Davidson.
Brandon.
Wow.
People loved him. Maybe we just led the charge in that, so it was definitely in our ears. But everybody clamored and they brought him back.
Yeah, it's true.
I wouldn't put
hell of an interview also on the Real Life podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Great interview. No, he's not the same quality of player, but I'm just saying in terms of in the hearts of Oiler fans, he was right there.
I would say outside since Nuge, not really anybody.
Jesse's trade value perceived by this fan base is very hard to gauge.
Yeah.
Versus reality. And I also think that there's an element of the other side where there's people that hate on Jesse just because he's Jesse.
Yeah. I wonder what the reaction would have been if that exact same tweet that you put out had Kaylor Yamamoto instead of Puljujarvi.
People would do it in a heartbeat.
Tweet it right now.
And see,
no.
And I'm not so sure I do that either. Like I need to watch Hags more, just his game style. But what Puljujarvi and what Yam do away from the puck in terms of retrieving the puck, I think is extremely important. And when you can reach the way that Puljujarvi does, knock a puck off a stick, and then have Connor going at full speed to pick that thing up for that breakaway against John Gibson. Dude, that's huge.
Yep.
And then the way Yam gets in the corners and gets underneath everyone's shoulders and gets his ass in front of in between the player and a puck, that's massive. We don't have a lot of that. We have it right now. We almost have it in abundance, and I would not be moving it.
I would move Yamamoto for Hagel just from the simple perspective of 2 years, $1.5 million.
Tweet it. Do it. Let's see it.
I'm not tweeting it.
That's fair, but I don't think Yamamoto or Puljujarvi, based on this season, are going to have that much of their agents are not going to have that much of a argument in terms of getting massive raises. Even with Yam going to arbitration, I don't know how arbitration gives them that much more.
I think him and Hagel are similar quality, and you could guarantee 2 years, $1.5 million. Like the cap situation just makes too much sense to not do that deal if it was on the table.
What do you think arbitration gives Yam though right now? Like I know obviously you have to go
but
look
at even then it's a 1 year Band-Aid, right?
Or you can sign a multiple based on what that 1 year is.
I'd take Hagel over Yamamoto.
Tweet your replies to @Tyler Yaremchuk.
Why
and
do you
I
hate
like
Yamamoto?
I'm high on Hagel.
Our friends at Cornerstone Insurance, they are high on you having the products you need to cover your life. Auto, residential, commercial, life insurance. They've got it all. CornerstoneINS.ca. Left-hand side of the screen. As always, Citizens of the Nation. You click that baby, you get yourself a discount. Good? Of course. CornerstoneINS.ca.
Just so the listeners know, that didn't register as an ad on Tyler's little ad thing. Good job, Bag Milk.
Thank you.
That wasn't even an ad.
That's what you get here at Oilersnation Radio when
you
you
get
sponsor our
high-quality ad reads. If you want to sponsor
real.
this podcast, just give me your money.
Reach out to Tyler.
Thank you. Yes.
Can
You reach out to Tyler. Go ahead.
Can I throw you a hypothetical armchair GM trade?
Yes, please.
Again, this is just me spitballing, not saying I
clip
do
this.
it.
Connor for
Make this clip say Tyler Yaremchuk guarantees.
So we heard Dominic Kubelik's name in the rumor mill connected to the Oilers.
Via the Czech media.
Mm-hmm. second round pick and a prospect for Dom Kubalik, and then you flip Yamamoto for Carson Soucy. Are the Oilers a better team after making those two trades?
Instantly.
Yes, except for, like I said this before, I still think that goaltending is a massive issue.
Yep.
And I think that's the first thing I go and try and fix first.
But they're a better team.
If you have two holes in a boat, you don't pick what order. Just fucking fill one.
Fair, but I'm filling the bigger hole first. One you have
Stop that.
One you have a smaller size hole, and one you have it's bringing on some water.
We
Fair
clipped
rebuttal.
a clip about me and holes last week, so that has to be included.
Stop that.
Dan and his holes.
Hey,
The interesting thing about Kubalik is he is a one-time 30 goal scorer as well.
In his rookie season, he was a Calder finalist that year.
This year he has 10 goals, 9 assists in 52 games. So he's having a little bit of a down year this year.
perfect year to get him.
Maybe that brings the value down, right? I don't know. Tyler, you did bring up something earlier that I want to touch on. Our boy Evander Kane. He is playing very well for the Oilers. He is giving them everything everybody expected on the ice that he would. He's brash. He's mixing it up. I talked about it last week. I laughed out loud in my house when he popped Claude Lemieux's kid in the face. He's scoring goals. He's hitting. Do you think, boys, that there's a chance the Oilers re-sign Evander Kane, or is this a one and done?
There's a chance because Ken Holland has shown he can't help himself, right? We saw it with Tyson Barrie. Ken Holland, the 1 year show me deal. What they should do with Evander Kane at the end of the season is shake hands and say, hey, thank you. We both helped each other. You got some value back. We got a good player for the last half of the season. Enjoy Florida or Columbus or Arizona. I could see him signing in Arizona.
Sure, you want him to go to your second favorite team.
Yeah, so you go.
Yeah, Columbus just sneaks that in there, hey?
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't love the idea of going and re-signing the guy still. That's just my take on it.
But do you think they will?
Yeah, I think they're going to make an attempt. I don't even know what's Evander Kane going to get.
Well, that's an interesting question because he may have burned some bridges in a couple of places. We saw him get booed
Really?
by
Why? What
two
happened?
separate fan bases in the span of a week. It's pretty hilarious. I kind of enjoyed it, actually. Dan, do you think he comes back?
I am with Tyler in thinking that Ken Holland makes an attempt, but I don't think that the Oilers can match what another team will offer him just based off of his on-ice skill alone. And I don't think that's unfair to say that. But
Oilers don't have a lot of money.
I just think that, I think that it's probably going to have to be a short-term deal because as a team, you want to lessen your exposure. Like we saw with the San Jose Sharks having to get out of that contract. So I think you're going to probably see a short-term deal and it's probably going to be in that 6, 7, that number. It's probably going to be pretty high. I would think you don't agree?
7?
Rick?
No, I think that's too high. I think you're going to get, I don't think anybody really offers them that much money.
Even if you think the effectiveness he has right now,
because there's only going to be, let's just say, a third of the teams in the league who actually want him.
right.
Then you're going to break it down into who and where they want to play them, how much you want to pay for a player like that. $7 million. I think that's especially for this dude right now.
1 year of Evander Kane, right?
Yeah, honestly, I think the Oilers can try and get in there and get him for something cheaper. I honestly think I'm fully on with Duncan Keith not playing next year and giving us a hell of a lot more money than we were ever assuming we were going to have.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen.
And you can't
either.
plan for that either.
Dare to dream.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
dream.
that's definitely one of the things I do, as it annoys a lot of people with my optimism. But I don't see how a guy like that wants to come back and play at just over $1 million, and with the injuries he's had this year. And yeah, it's very much on little odds, but there may have been a handshake deal that says he's coming for 1 year, and that was it.
You're talking about Duncan Keith or Kane?
No, Keith. And then all of a sudden you have the money to sign all three, Kane, Yamamoto, and Pouliot, because like I said before, I don't think either one of those guys have a lot of money.
I think Evander Kane, just knowing kind of what we know about things, I think he's going to chase wherever is the most money.
Fair, but I don't know if there's going to be that much more out there dollar-wise offered above, and then competitive of the team he's going to go to compared to what he can come and play in Edmonton for.
I bet you he gets 2 years, $4.5 million per.
I could buy that. And I think it's going to be in a place where the lifestyle for him is just, he's not always in the public eye.
Yeah.
I could see Arizona signing him.
I can see Columbus.
You want him to go play at ASU in the college lifestyle?
That's the perfect place.
Yeah.
I just think that he's played in Winnipeg. that was like a fishbowl for him. I don't know that.
But he played there for a couple of years, right?
He did, yeah. But I just don't know that he'd want to come back to the fishbowl.
Tired of the bus rides.
Yeah, those bus rides are awful.
Oh, it's terrible, but the chicken fingers are fantastic.
Wi-Fi was horrendous back then.
And the curbs are very high.
Stupid cabs without the back.
And if you have more than 3 friends, you can't get in a cab.
No.
Yep. I would love to hear from you, though, if you're listening to this OWN Radio podcast. Do you think Evander Kane will come back next year? Do you think the Oilers should sign him? Because like I said, on ice, he's done everything this team could have hoped he would.
Yeah.
Scoring big goals, getting assists, mixing it up, throwing the body around. It's what he does, and it's what he's doing. Right? I want to hear from you. So hit us up again, OWN Radio podcast. A couple of other things for just a couple of housekeeping things I want to get to. Actually, you know what? Let's get to Ask the Idiots. I'll do the housekeeping after. BustersPizza.ca. They've got a location near you if you want to grab something to eat this weekend. I promise there is going to be a location that serves you well. Whether you want a donair, whether you want some pizza, they got it. BustersPizza.ca. As always, for Ask the Idiots, the boys are hearing these questions for the first time. You've sent these through to me throughout the week. There was a lot this week, so if I did not get to you, I apologize, but we just can't have this segment running for 6 hours, you know? We'd like to.
This isn't your podcast.
Yeah. Better late than never. Last night with Wanye was a 3-hour episode. So
Shots fired.
I didn't even know it was over yet. Intermission.
It was funny. Jay called me this morning and he's just like, are you done recording with Wanye now?
Nice.
Because we did 2.5, 2 3/4 hours last night.
Yeah.
And then we stopped recording and then he and I bullshitted for another 35 minutes. But what happened in that post call was that Wanye and I might just do a bi-weekly long form podcast together where we just bullshit for 3 hours. We'll see. If you're interested in that, hit me up. I'd like to hear it. But back to business. Ask the Idiots for BustersPizza.ca. We want to hear from you. First question for, I was almost going to Ron Burgundy this one. 1 second. All right. This one is, Dan, I'm going to start with you because you're upset me.
Yes.
Knowing what we know about CTE and given the league's apparent stance on brain injuries, why is there no mandatory concussion tests for combatants right after a fight or concussion protocol? Do you think that's a good idea?
I implement my Fifth Amendment rights. No, I don't know. Like there's okay. I run hockeyfights.com for the company. There's not a lot of evidence that says that CTE
comes from fighting,
establishes itself in fighting. So I'd love to see some more studies done on that. There's a lot of great work that's being done. We need more information.
I love watching you tap dance
to be able to, well, it's just, you need more information to be able to figure out how to do this stuff. I do agree though, that I will agree with them that I think the concussion spotter work has gone kind of slow and quiet. Whereas we were
I haven't really heard about it for a while.
It's just,
they just pulled Shesterkin out in the middle of a fucking third period. And they pulled him out.
What happened?
In like the last little bit of the third period, and he came back in overtime because he was fine.
Did he get beamed with a puck or what happened?
Yeah, I think he might have got knocked into by another player or something like that.
Rick,
he was fine.
Rick, do you think they should have concussion protocol tests after a fight?
Not all fights, no. I think
that's what I was going to say too, is the last thing.
Not all fights. I think the ones that are obvious are there.
And those guys get pulled off anyway.
Yeah, they usually have an issue, right? And then it's up to the shot caller there who's watching and says if you took one really hard on the chin, that you should probably go get looked at. And I think they probably do that. It's just it doesn't happen all that much. And like Dan said, the math so far that we've been it's been reported to the public says there's not a large correlation between CTE and fighting.
Tyler?
No. If the guy gets his bell rung, sure. I don't know. I don't.
It's just, it's like everybody's just kind of saying, it's just, if it's obvious, absolutely. Let's get them off of there. And
they're going off. Yeah. Cause usually they hit their head and they're like,
that's the thing is that often, like, it's such a tough spot to sit there because these guys just want to play the game and they don't really, they just kind of, they throw caution to the wind, and that's how they have to play the game in general too, right? It's played at 200 miles an hour. And so you're just kind of, you're out there and you're a part of it. So yeah, I mean, always we should be deferring to helping player safety, but that's a question that it's a case by case basis.
I, an unlicensed doctor, would like to say that
All of this was allegedly in our opinion.
This was medical research that you can take to the bank. It was not. I could see it having concussion spotters step in, but I think that if guys just cruise to the bench, like right immediately, or the penalty box, I should say.
There's guys there watching right now. Like there's concussion spotters out there. They're there right now. And if there's somebody that bad, they will pull them off.
A fight goes and the guys are just like, yeah, you know how it goes. And then they go straight to the, like, don't waste our time, but like,
don't waste their time. Yeah.
Then of course. Question number 2, Tyler, starting at the other end of the table. Do you think it's a better idea to get rid of Smyth's contract at the deadline or Koskinen's contract to try and get a starter?
I mean, they both would have pluses. Mikko, you're getting rid of more money this season, right? You free up $4.5 million, which would be nice. Smyth, you're out of that deal for next year. But if Smyth, is hurt, doesn't want to play next year, is just going to go on LTIR, then you don't need to get rid of that contract. So yeah, go get Koskinen. I'll say either or. The priority would be freeing up money for this year's deadline. So whichever way you do it, as long as you have enough money to bring in a D-man and a goalie, just make it work.
Rick.
This Mikko, just for the dollar wise for right now. He's probably your better backup right now between the two. But I think you just need the money. If you're getting the starter right now, you're bringing Stu in for number 2. And Mikko's the answer for right now.
Nation Dad.
I ripped on him earlier, but yes, I would agree that Smyth is probably just going to have to be your backup this year, and Mikko frees up a little bit more.
And it's easier to make Smyth's money go away next year.
And also Mikko's probably the more enticing of the two for another team as well, right? So
I'm going to say this is very boring, but yeah, Mikko is just dollars. Question number 3. This is a little bit longer. Rick, I'm starting with you. With the disappointing and inconsistent goaltending right now, it's got me thinking that a googly-eyed green bastard from parts unknown would do better between the pipes. Should the Oilers go after not 1, but 2 goalies? If we did, who would you go after that's realistic? Personally, I would go after Spencer Martin as a backup and Alexander Georgiev as the starter. I'm not sure that's even possible. Just hoping for everyone's thoughts.
Yes, you do go after 2 goaltenders. One of them, however, has happened to be in your organization already. So you're going with Smyth, and I'm on board. Or sorry, you go with Stu, and you go Stu and Holtby. So there's my goal.
Nation Dan.
It's going to be so hard to work 1 goalie in there. To get 2 goalies at this point, I think is just kind of
one of them we have already
high in the sky. And that's Rick. Yeah. Rick, you found the workaround for sure.
Yeah, he's already here.
But to answer the question, I think you can only really bring in 1 from outside.
Tyler, your M check.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can only get 1. Go get whatever, a Holtby. Maybe you take a chance on a Forsberg. Maybe there's a bigger deal out there, but get the 1 guy, bring him in. He'll ride shotgun with probably Mike Smyth for the rest of the year, maybe Stuart Skinner, but whatever way you do it, you just need to get 1.
Do either of those goalies entice any of you, Spencer Martin or Alexander Georgiev?
I think Georgiev's too expensive and he's too inconsistent right now. I think they need more of a sure bet right now. And so no, I would say no to both of them. I think you need to go get someone with a bit more experience and who can bring a bit more consistency to the crease.
Anybody in on these 2 guys?
No.
I would still give Georgiev a shot myself.
But as you got to give him as your
like you a lot too, right?
Oh, it's always going to come down to cost for sure. But yeah, I would, like, at this point, I'm pretty willing to accept just about any goalie out there.
But it's got to be better than what we have right now. That's when you look at Korpisalo out of Columbus. Like that, I wouldn't do the Korpisalo.
I wouldn't touch Korpisalo if he only cost a 4th round pick because I don't think he's an upgrade.
And that's why Martin Jones out of Philly, I wouldn't have done either. And what did we offer the 5th round for that?
Yeah.
See, I'd take both of those guys because I just think that even just bringing in some fresh blood will help this situation a lot.
I'd do Forsberg just because he's got at least got good numbers this year.
Yeah. 917 for Forsberg in Ottawa, and they're terrible. Georgiev, meanwhile, in New York is an 898. If you're going to if you're going to find a goalie,
that's a good team.
If you're going to find a goalie, you might want somebody that's an upgrade. At least statistically overweight.
Arguably come in lowball them, right?
Holtby and Skinner.
All right, Tyler, I'm starting with you. You have 1 question to ask anybody at all in the Oilers organization, be it Mr. Cates, upper management, players, coaches, etc. The person you ask has to answer your question honestly. Who are you asking, and do you have an idea on a question?
Who am I at? So I get full on 100% truth serum.
Yeah, you get 1 true answer from anybody in the organization.
Man, that is a great question. Just for my own peace of mind. Oh, fuck. I don't know. I'm going to get ripped for this.
Yes.
There's not an answer you could come up with where you're not going to get ripped for it.
Yeah. Okay. This is my question. Don't at me.
At Tyler. Your arm check.
I asked Connor McDavid how much more patience he has.
I think that's a good question, though.
Pandora's box.
I'd be scared about hearing that answer.
I would be too.
You can't ask the question you don't want to know the answer to.
But I do want to know the answer to it.
No, you don't.
Because then I could relay that information to other places.
Yeah.
That'd be my. I think it would. I think because if you get the answer,
Then he's going to sell out Connor McDavid.
And the website will crash immediately.
Snitches get stitches over it.
He's already going to his betting account and which team he wants to go to. He's
Yeah.
plus 1,200. Yeah, I'll put the money on that guy in there.
that's probably the biggest one, right? If things don't go well this year or next year,
Rick?
There's so many ways.
Well, the easiest one is what's your PIN number, Mr. Cates?
That is a bold question.
Right? Like he's got to tell me. Yeah. I want your online banking information, sir. But a little more hockey related.
Just taking a peek at that thing just to see, whoa.
Oh, I would quickly make a transfer over, maybe 1 or 2 commas. He's not even going to notice.
A quick dent in there. No biggie.
Oh,
Just replace the divot.
Yeah, exactly. But hockey, it would have to be, it's Holland and it's, why haven't you fixed this goaltending? What are you doing? Like it's about goaltending. It's to the GM, and that's it. That's the only thing holding us back right now.
Nation Dan.
I'm really glad that you guys answered first because it gave me a lot of time, and I was running through some dark circles. But I've settled on a question for one burger man, Bobby Nix himself.
You can't get the fries for free.
And the question is, how did the re-signing of a Mikko Koskinen actually go down?
That would be a really good question.
I'm really fascinated behind that one.
That would be a really good question.
Because to me, that tells you exactly what you need to know about this organization currently.
Well, that's a couple of years ago, though.
No, but that's the head of your organization.
But we're still talking about it 4 years later.
And Ken Holland,
because the GM hasn't fixed it.
I just want to know from Bobby Nix how that went down. Did he supply the pen to Ken or to Peter Chiarelli? Wow,
dude, I'm guessing he had very little to do with that stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
He's a business guy. They brought him in to overwatch hockey, gave all the hockey stuff to Chiarelli, and went along, did his business stuff.
But here's the thing: he has to answer me. He has to tell me that's the answer, right? So I want to know the truth.
I don't think it's gonna be a very juicy answer, though. I think it'll be kind of dry.
I'm going to ask Mr. Kate something. I'm going to ask him.
Not his PIN number.
Nope.
After me.
I want to know. I don't believe for a second the narrative that some Oilers fans have that he doesn't care. I don't believe that for a second.
No chance.
What I want to know is what he truly thinks of the way his money is being spent. Because I imagine he gives the management team autonomy to do what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's probably how it should go. But ultimately, he's still paying Dave Tippett. He's paying Ken Holland $5 million a year. We are in year 7 of Connor McDavid's NHL career, and this is where we're at. I would love to know what he thinks about how his team, his management team, is spending his money. Wouldn't that be interesting? He'd be like,
yep.
Fuck.
I would, if I was asking Kate's a question, I think I would ask him, like, what interventions have you had to do since you owned the team? Like,
that's
have you stepped in and said, I want this changed?
Yeah.
Well, I heard he ripped into the scouts and whatnot a couple weeks ago.
And I want to hear about every single one of those people that he's laid into, because I think that would be interesting for Oiler fans to hear that their owner does care, right?
Video footage.
I refuse. Like I said, I refuse to believe the narrative that he doesn't care.
There's no chance.
Refuse to believe it.
No chance.
Last question. Ask the idiots. I'm going to start with Dan on this one. What would you set the over-under at for moves for the Oilers at deadline day? And once the line's set, are you taking the over or are you taking the under?
Well, Tyler's the guy that I would let set the line, but I'm going to guess.
Okay, then Tyler, set the line for us.
2.5.
Damn it.
I was going to say 3.5, so I'll go over.
I'd take the over too. That's just what I think the line would be set at.
I was going to set it at 1.5 because I feel like 2 is very easy. If it's 3.5,
if it's 2.5, what are you saying?
Tyler said at
2.5. I still think I think they're make 2 moves. I think there's one type of defensive defenseman move and the goaltender move.
The line's 2.5?
Yeah.
I'm going to say under. I think we get maybe 2 moves, but I don't think it's going to be a busy deadline day.
I think it'll be you get a goalie, get a D-man, and there's a trade to offload a contract.
That's why I said
man, you really got me going on this Edmonton Philly one now with Barry and Ristolainen. Make that trade, find your goalie, let's go into the playoffs. Take the rest of the summer off, Kenny.
But you know that he's going to make more depth moves.
You
know
don't.
he's got
Yeah,
Mark
I
coming
just.
back.
But
Unless he looks at Russell coming back as his depth guy, right? Like let's say you can do Barry for Ristolainen, and then you can do your second for Holtby, your second next year. And 2023 is a loaded draft. Second for Holtby, Barry for Ristolainen, Russell comes back on the left side
right now.
That's a solid deadline. And then you have a deal in there too, where it's like, your fifth next year for
An Archibald.
for Koskinen at 50% retained. So you're losing that $2 million off Koskinen. You gave up your fifth next year.
Is there any value to Arch? No.
I think he's a warm body for somebody.
Like an American team who plays, the majority of their games in the US. Like, what are like? Is it a fifth round pick, fourth round pick? Is it like?
I think for me with Archibald, you take what you get if you can't get
Probably
something.
a fifth rounder.
I just think that
he's been on LTIR all year, right?
Yeah.
What's his contract? Because he's got to come off that.
1.1 or something.
I just think that he's not in the plans.
You could send him down
Can't
to
be.
Bakersfield, right? And just lose that money. But the other thing too, someone pointed this out on Twitter.
No, you can't play in the AHL if you're not vaxxed.
You can't play in the American League.
I believe that's their rule.
I don't know.
Or at least in California. I think we've talked about this before, actually.
But I did read, like, you can't even send the guy down for a conditioning stint right now. He hasn't played in the NHL all year. And you can't send him down to Bakersfield for 3 games because he'd have to quarantine on either side of it and it'd be fucking pointless.
Could just take forever.
So yeah.
Or you send him down to Bakersfield and then you leave him as your American player.
And you can bring him up when you play American games. I guess
You just have to
that
squat
almost,
along to the next team. Yeah.
Were you the one talking before the show about how many games they have in the States for this year?
It's
15
almost even,
games
right?
in Canada and 16 games in the States.
Fuck yeah, send him down to Bakersfield then. Either someone claims him and you lose the money, or you have him as that option. But like, it makes no sense to go out of your way at all to bring Josh Archibald into the mix. He's not that much better than anyone they have in the bottom 6 now.
He would make it that much harder to for the defenseman. If you go if you're going 12-6, you're going to make it harder on the defenseman. So if you're going 11-7 and you're using Arch, you're taking Benson out or something like that. And you might as well move him at that point because if you're going to have him, you might as well play him. Like this is obviously a guy who's done everything the organization wanted to, as opposed to Arch. You see you later, bud.
And if you think Archibald's changed at all, if you go to his Twitter and his liked tweets, his last 2 liked tweets are from some random account.
Dates.
It's from like a casino lifestyle account. So keep that in mind. How they got this information on Josh Archibald, I don't know, but it's from this casino lifestyle account that tweeted in some random argument. Have another look at the actual facts of the story. There's no confirmation Archibald's myocarditis was a result of COVID, only speculation. He had a non-related severe viral infection when he arrived in training camp. He had COVID during the summer, but he also had a severe viral infection when he arrived. There's no way to know for certain which instance caused the myocarditis. Then he ends it by going, the @NHL puppet media implies it's from COVID because it fits the everyone must get vaccinated narrative. And those tweets have a combined 5 likes between the 2 of them.
How recent?
2 of them are Josh Archibald.
Those are from late November 2021.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a hair of an argument that says that there's no connect, or you can't really connect the 2, but it's one of those things where it's like 95% sure. Like it's
Also, why does this casino lifestyle account have all this information on Josh Archibald?
a great point.
Yeah, why is he liking this random account?
It's all their bets, man.
All right. Ask the idiots. I got to give away a gift card. So I'm going to do my little spinnings.
Dan's hat stuck on his head.
Dan's hat is prepared. Dan is participating.
The hat
I'm going to give this gift card to Riley. Riley, I think you asked a great question. Which one or what question would you ask anybody in the Oilers organization? I think the boys gave some good
That
answers.
was an awesome question.
Riley, you get a gift card. I will reach out to you post podcast. Congratulations. Eat up. It's delicious. A couple of housekeeping items before we get to Ask the Idiots.
Hot and cold.
What did I just say?
Ask the idiots.
Hot and cold performers. Couple of things that I want to get to. Tyler Benson, we talked about him. Shout out to Tyler Benson, finally scoring his first NHL goal against the Minnesota Wild.
Poor
Long
guy
time
had to do
coming.
it on that game.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
But at least like his parents were in the building,
That's
and
dope.
it was a really, really cool moment.
To be from Edmonton, score your first goal in Edmonton for the Oilers, that's a great story. Not to mention, I'll never get tired of watching guys score their first. The reactions are great. He pushed Kaprizov after. The whole thing was
I
funny.
love that.
March 2nd. So that is Wednesday, I believe. That is your deadline for the Nashville trip. If you want to come with us to Nashville, Wednesday is your deadline. So Procrastination will not be your friend here, people. Head on over to nationgear.ca and get the details for that trip. As we mentioned, Josh Archibald also healthy. He is trying to get back into the NHL. Where that goes, I have no idea, but it will be an interesting story to follow as we go through the rest of the season.
Let me ask you this. Will he play for the Oilers this season?
No.
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 Do you think so?
No, yeah, I'll say no too then. There's a part of me that the whole put him in Bakersfield, he could go down there. I don't think there's a quarantine in California anymore. I might be wrong on that.
I'm not sure.
But I know California is relaxing a lot of their rules. He might be able to go down to Bakersfield and you could just bring him around the States with you as you go. But like, even then, like, I don't know why you'd go out of your way for the guy, but I think the doors maybe open a little bit, but I would also say no if it was a gun to
But
my
also
head.
you got to think of a guy who's missed 50 plus games at this point in the season is going to be a little bit rusty.
Before all of that, would you not go talk to your nucleus, if you will? Like, I think somebody asked about that before. Like, will you go Connor, Leon, Darnell? What do you guys think? Should we bring this guy back? What are your thoughts? You know, like,
Get out of here.
oh, you can just turn him off with a switch. Otherwise, you have to hit all the buttons. That was good.
I saw him coming. Also on Wednesday, I got to give a major shout out to my boy, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 700 games in the NHL on Wednesday night.
Incredible.
It has been a long trip.
Look at the sound bar where you pressed all the buttons at the same time.
It's loud.
Yeah, I like
Loud.
that.
It won't be that loud in the ears of the people listening because I'll fix that, but
I just had to go for it, you know?
Had to. Last opportunity.
I haven't.
Yeah, he turned it down. He turned the gray thing went down like this.
He's like, I haven't turned it. What the? What did he do? What did he break?
He hit the solo one. So all we were hearing in our headphones was nothingness for a little there.
Oh, solo-ness.
This is why you should just let me touch stuff so I don't have to haphazardly swing away. Right? Right. Time for hot and cold performers. Tyler, get your buttons ready that I'm no longer allowed to touch because he's back at his board. It is time to look back at the last 7 days of our lives and pick the bright sides and the low sides. And as we do, we start off with our veggies. I just want to say thank you for the support from Deuce Vodka for the long time. I know our contract with you ran out, but thank you. Thank you for being the sponsor of Hot and Cold Performers.
Thanks for dropping a deuce.
Everybody loves it. Cold Performer of the Week. I'm going to start off with Rick. He's down at the end of the table. Your veggies from this last 7 days.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious if you go outside of the sports world, but I'm going to try and not do that right now. This goes to an entire league and maybe a couple teams because they gave us a glimpse of something that was going to be really, really cool, I think, even if it lasted for about 7 seconds. And then it was all taken away today. So this goes to the ECHL and everybody involved with bringing Sean Avery back. Because if you were watching, Barnaby said, if Avery signs a contract, I'll sign with anybody in the division. Just leave me one. You can play me as much as Torts used to. Like they were going out there just to scrap him. The Rock jumped in. Theo Peckham jumped in. These guys are all willing to go out there and play one game against Avery, and I think that would have been a hell of a time to watch. So we're going to give it to everybody who got my hopes up about watching Sean Avery get his ass whooped.
I'm upset.
I'll take some responsibility for that because Hockey Fights has been talking about it nonstop.
Nation Dan, then you're up next. Your Cold Performer of the Week.
My cold performer of the week is going to go just quietly and whatever to Alex Ovechkin for his statement that he put out today. Just soft, week for a guy that has a past where he's been very pro. Just kind of
his profile picture on Instagram was still him and Putin.
Yeah. So Alex Ovechkin, you get my cold performer of the week.
Shoot. What's a good button for that?
What?
Tyler, your Cold Performer of the Week.
My cold performer of the week is the IIHF for not following suit with some of the other big sporting associations. We saw UEFA pull the Champions League from St. Petersburg.
Formula One.
We saw Formula One pull the race from Sochi as well. And the IIHF is kind of sitting there going, we're meeting about it. We're thinking about it. Humming and hawing. And it's
a fucking decision.
And it's very easy to see by Googling the names Rene Fassel, Vladimir Putin, just how tight the IIHF had been with Vladimir Putin in the past with their former leader, Rene Fassel as well. So just super disappointing that the hockey world and the IIHF, I shouldn't say hockey world, the IIHF hasn't taken a bit of a stronger stance on this.
What the hell is going on?
I'm just going to keep it here in Edmonton. You guys kind of covered a lot of it. So I'm just going to say my Cold Performer of the Week, Mike Smyth. You got to be better, man. You're costing us games. We don't have time to lose games right now to goaltending when the team in front of you is playing as well as they are. Mike Smyth, cold performer.
Have you ever fought before? Yeah. You have? Yeah. You were probably beat up in the bus stop most of the time. I think so.
That was a great exchange.
Tyler, you're up first. Let's flip the ledger. Let's end off this podcast with a little bit of positivity. What do you got? Your hot performer of the week.
To our newest teammate at Daily Faceoff, Matt Larkin. He was, and I told him this, he was my first ever like favorite writer. When I was like, kind of like 14, 15, I would get the hockey news, read the hockey news, love the hockey news. And he was one of the main guys there at the time. So for me growing up, read Matt Larkin a lot. Really cool to get a chance to work with him. So Matt Larkin gets my hot performer of the week for joining Daily Faceoff.
This is why I'm hot. I'm hot because I'm fly. You ain't because you not.
You feel old now, don't you?
No, if anyone should feel old, it's Matt Larkin.
Nice. I tried.
Rick, your hot performer of the week.
You know what? Let's stick to the city here. And I know you brought it up a minute or two ago there, but let's give it to number 16, Tyler Benson, getting his first NHL goal. That dude's had a winding career so far. He came off pretty hot coming out of junior. And with his injuries, it's kind of been a little sidetrained a little bit. And he's had to change his game this year and go a little more blue collar. And I think he's done a very good job at it. And it's nice to see him finally get that first one.
It's getting hot in here.
Nation Dan, your hot performer of the week.
Well, when he was here as our goalie, we called him Dadbot. But one Cameron Talbot came back to town this week with the Minnesota Wild. It was a horrendous game for the Oilers. But one Oilers fan that was a big Cam Talbot fan decided to hang around and had a nice little sign for Talbot. And when Talbot saw it, he gave him a stick. And I just think that that's what hockey should be all about at the end of the day. And so Cameron Talbot, you get my hot performer of the week.
Feeling hot, hot, hot. Feeling hot, hot, hot.
That's the kind of stuff when NHL players do it that will be in that kid's head forever.
Hats off to almost all the guys because everybody's doing a lot more. The candy exchanges, I think, are pretty cool.
I hate the kids who bring signs though that are clearly made by their parents that are like, I would like a stick or a puck or a glove or the keys to your car, please, because it's my birthday. And it's like, why you gotta ask for that shit so like upfrontly? Like, come on.
I saw something the other night
make the sign
where a guy said, "My wife won't let me come home without one of your sticks."
That's
kind of funny. Him a stick.
I like that.
Saved a marriage.
I just like, well, see, double hot.
Did it though? Because if you have to have that kind of an ultimatum put on you for going,
how long was she going to hold out for though?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just like when guys do that. It makes such a big difference, especially for a little kid. Like the video that the Minnesota Wild put out, you just could see how excited.
Yeah,
the excitement on the face. So I love that. Did I miss everybody?
You're going.
You're going.
Your turn.
My hot performer of the week. If you haven't seen it, Waz put it on our Instagram account, Oilersnation.com. Dot is spelled out. I don't know what the boys were doing. They're down in Florida on this road trip, but Evan Bouchard's reaction to the fish he caught is probably one of my favorite videos that I've seen on Instagram lately because the double fist pump that he's got going on. I like to think that maybe the boys were betting or something. There's a little bit of game.
There's some sort of competition going on between the guys for sure.
Evan Bouchard's reaction was pure elation. And I don't know if anybody on earth has ever seen him that excited before. So Evan Bouchard, you are my hot performer of the week.
Nuge in his 700 games kind of gets lost to this, eh?
It's wild.
Wow.
It's wild.
Yeah.
We gave him a little bit of love before, though.
Wow,
That's off brand, bag milk.
I know.
Off brand.
It's my boy.
Yikes.
He knows it.
What's your prediction for the score? It's tomorrow.
4-2.
There you go.
Thank you.
Back on brand. We got you back there.
7-1 Oilers.
Oh, fuck yeah. Dan?
Tomorrow? Who are we playing?
Florida.
I forgot because it's that
10:30 a.m.
I'm going to say we lose 5-3.
How dare you? Rick?
I'm going to say we win 5-3.
Another thing I just wanted to talk about before we end off the podcast, I thought it was really funny before we started recording that Rick admitted he bets on junior hockey as well as the AHL.
Yeah, the AHL. I'm telling you, man, you find some numbers in there. You can find some value in there.
No, Tyler bets on junior hockey.
Tyler was talking about, you want to talk about...
Because you're going to the Oil Kings tonight.
Yeah, I want to go watch Connor Bedard play, so I'm going to go to a hockey game, and I can't not bet on it.
Can you get goal props for Connor Bedard?
No, all they have is just like spreads and totals.
Yeah.
So what are you betting?
Is it live though?
Can you live bet? I don't know.
That'd be incredible.
I don't think I've seen a live bet.
Most of that live bet stuff is just algorithm built, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm taking Oil Kings -2.5 at like +140.
Oof, juicy.
Ooh.
They're so
Juicy.
good, man.
They are.
If you're, I mean, I've had this debate before about like whether or not Edmonton is truly a hockey town or if it's just an Oilers town. And I think if it really was a hockey town, the Oil Kings would be getting a bit more support. And when a guy like Connor Bedard rolls through, that building should be more full than it probably will be.
Definitely an Oilers town.
It is.
It's an Oilers town.
It's
For sure.
definitely an Oilers.
Playoffs.
Who's Hagel?
You'll see more people.
Who's
there.
this Brandon Hagel
Yeah,
guy?
who's Brandon Hagel?
Someone called him Brandon Bagel.
Yes.
They're like, I don't want fucking Bagel.
He had a fight this year, and I did an autocorrect matchup. It was like Bagel versus Middlestone or something like that.
Delicious. All right. There you go. Oilers Nation Radio episode 181. I want to say
Smitty Day.
Oh yeah, Ryan Smyth Day. Thank you for that. So if you don't know, a little piece of Nation history is coming up on Sunday. Sunday marks the 15th anniversary of the Ryan Smyth trade. Heartbreaking for those of you that remember.
Yeah.
I remember I took the day off.
I remember
that
everything.
trade deadline. I took the day off. I watched it. Fucking Eklund said that he was going to sign a 5-year extension on Sportsnet.
It was done.
10 minutes later, he got traded to the Islanders for Ryan O'Mara, Robert Nilsson, and a first round pick, I think.
Paul Toonley, wasn't he in there?
And
No, I think it was the draft pick.
absolutely gutted. But if
And then
you
4 hours later, he cries at the airport.
yes. So,
Bring it home for everybody.
so 15 years ago that happened. So what we're doing, and I got to give Coombsy some love because behind the scenes, Cam has been working on a lot of content for Sunday and Monday. We're going to have Brownlee's writing articles. Gregor's going to write something. Last night on Better Late Than Never, I tried to convince Wanye to unretire the keyboard to write something for Ryan Smyth Day. So we'll see what happens there. But I just wanted to plug it a little bit because Sunday, Monday, we're going to have a ton of Ryan Smyth content on the website.
2-day
History,
holiday.
what he means to everybody. I'm going to talk about meeting him in Moose Jaw. That's going to be something that I'm writing. I'm going to talk about the game I was at. I don't remember exactly. I'll have to look it up which game specifically when he got his pegs with his teeth knocked out by Chris Pronger, came back, got the assist on Horakov's game winner. I was at that game. So lots of stuff coming. Ryan Smyth Day on Sunday marks the 15th anniversary of that trade. And ultimately the reason the four of us are sitting in this room today, because without that trade, there would be no OilersNation.com. So check out the website, check out our socials. We're going to have a lot coming on Sunday and Monday. Tyler, thank you for reminding me of that. That's good producing.
Are you guys taking Tuesday off or something like that then?
Yeah. I'm just taking the rest of the week off.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yep. Sleep when you're dead. No days off, right, Tyler? Avoid the grind.
#avoid the grind.
Once again, Oilers Nation Radio, episode 181. It's Friday afternoon. It's beautiful. Go Oilers. Big weekend this weekend. 2-0, baby. Have a great weekend.
Shout out Ryan Smyth.
Thanks for listening to Oilers Nation Radio, delivered by DoorDash. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram.